Guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, HOA confiscated my boat and stole my lake access property. I'm not even part of the HOA. I have a fear that the HOA leaders here in South Africa are taking a few pointers from the ones in America. At least where I live, HOAs was never that big of a thing, but suddenly started popping up left and right for no real reason. One cropped up in my neighborhood and only me and a few other neighbors realized that joining it would be a horrible idea and refused. We didn't want anything to do with them, but in the backs on our minds worried about something possibly happening. I was right, of course, or there wouldn't be a story, but I didn't know it would have escalated to the point that it did. My neighborhood has a lake, and I don't mean a tiny pond because the lake a pretty decent size. Most of the houses that are lucky enough to be on the lake have private docks and boats. I love my land because of having that perk and spend most of my free time taking the boat out on the lake and enjoying my life. Like I said before, though, only a few of us on the lake refused to become part of the HOA and we became a little bit of a thorn in their side. I found this information out later, but their plan was to build an HOA exclusive boat club on the lake. Other people owning lake property and having access though was an issue, and they couldn't control us or our boat usage. They wanted it to be a fancy snobby type club, and the roar of my boat engine apparently went against that. I didn't give a shit what they wanted though, because it was my dock, my boat, my right to use the lake. Just to clear up any confusion, it wasn't exactly a public lake, but anybody that had lake property had the right to use it. As long as I owned the property, I didn't need permission from anybody, and that went for my neighbors as well. The people that joined the HOA might have signed away that right, but I don't really care about them. None of us were going to budge on the matter, no matter how many times the HOA came banging on our doors. That was when letters arrived in the mail from the HOA lawyer claiming that the HOA owed the lake. They were banning our boats and we had a week to get rid of them ourselves, or somebody was going to come and do it for us. We were all angry, and not a single one of us was going to give in to this scare tactic that we knew couldn't be legal. We didn't have to follow HOA rules, and they didn't own the lake like they were claiming. We kept our boats right where they were, and a week later some people came in order to try and forcibly take them away. We were prepared though and made sure we were all on our boats so they couldn't do anything. They made some calls, and the HOA leaders came down and saw what the whole issue was about. They went dock to dock yelling at us to get off our boats because they were going to confiscate them. We didn't, and one of them actually called the police, who came onto what I assume was an odd sight. I wouldn't get off my boat to talk to the police until I was assured nothing was being moved or confiscated, until they got to the bottom of everything. Police. They say the boat go against the HOA contract that you signed. Me. I never signed a contract. I am not part of the HOA. Police. And this is your property? Me. Yes, I own the land, the dock, and my boat. Is it illegal for me to have my boat parked on my dock? Police. No sir. We ran the boat and found it is in your name and all up to code. If you aren't part of the HOA, they can't take the boat away. The police told them they couldn't legally take the boats, and they threw a fit until they were thrown out of the property. I was worried they would come back to me, and my neighbors sued them for what they had done. Attempting to take our boats was theft, and because of their idiot move calling the police, we had actual records of what happened. Mixed with the harassment to get us to join the HOA and false claim that they owned the lake. The good news was that with all of this, even they knew our boats going missing would look really bad on their part. Before I get into what the ruling was for all of that, I need to back it up a moment because of something else. Remember the HOA lawyer letters we got in the mail? It turns out that the real lawyer refused to send those letters because he could probably see how illegal the actions the HOA were trying to take were. My guess is he was trying to stay out of it, but still we got letters, and they didn't have the name of that lawyer either. It turns out that the brother of one of the HOA leaders wrote those letters to us. He used pretty professional language and even used a letterhead calling himself a lawyer when in fact he was not a lawyer of any kind. He was now under investigation for pretending to be a lawyer, which is very much illegal in almost every country that I know. The HOA leader, of course, for being in the know of it all, was also going to get in a ton of trouble for that. Now onto the part that has to do with me personally. The HOA leaders in court were told very bluntly that they didn't own the lake and their plans for an HOA exclusive club would actually be going against a few local laws, so it would never happen anyway. They did harass us and trespass on our land, as well as lie to the police and hire a company to confiscate our boats. The company, by the way, was not in trouble since they were grossly misinformed of why they were taking the boats away. They had to pay me and the other non-HOA neighbors involved a huge fine and promised to stay away from us. They were not even allowed to send anything in the mail asking us to join the HOA, or they could end up right back in court. They didn't have to go to jail or anything dramatic, but I am glad that the snobs got put in their place. The HOA also didn't get disbanded, as much as I would have enjoyed seeing that, and instead, they continued on their business. I did hear that some HOA members were angry because they sold their boats because they were promised a lake club that of course was now never going to exist. Since I am not involved, I don't actually know what came of that, but I do still know the same people continue to be in charge. I also don't know the fate of the HOA leader's brother, but I would guess a hefty fine or some jail time for impersonating a lawyer. The next story is titled, "Evict Me Without Cause and Only Give Me Till Midnight to Be Out?" No problem. So once upon a time I was living in a, not legal, basement apartment of an old Hungarian woman's house. I was poor, the place was cheaper than what was around, so I took it. How bad could it be? She was horrific. At first, she was an okay landlady, but then things started to turn. First, I noticed that things were off when I got home from work. Ever get that feeling someone was in your room? So I asked her if she'd been in there and she denied it. Then I set up a camera and caught her on camera. Asked her again and she denied it, saying she's never gone in my apartment without telling me. Then I showed her the video and she got mad at me. I worked nights. One time she came in during the daytime and I was there. In bed, naked under the sheets. I woke up when she came in and asked if I could help her, she said no and left. After that she would call me, lazy boy, when she saw me, assuming I didn't work since it was at night. Things kept getting worse. She'd sometimes shut off the water when she thought I was using too much or when I refused to share my Wi-Fi password with her other tenant. Finally, one night I had some friends over for a birthday. There was 6 of us total, it was around 11 p.m. and trust me when I say, we were not being loud at all. Literally just hanging around the coffee table eating cheesecake, talking and laughing. She came into my apartment and started yelling that I was having a loud party with too many people in the middle of the night. She actually came and grabbed my shirt telling me everyone had to leave. Oh hell no. That was it. So, I pushed her off of me and the police were called. That Monday, she left a really poorly written eviction notice on my door, seriously, handwritten. Telling me to be out by Saturday by midnight. Here's the MC. By 11:59 p.m. that Saturday, I had all my stuff in the U-Haul. My friends and I were just working on bagging up the trash and other stuff for the dump, when she came in and yelled at me that it was past midnight. No problem. I got up and left, leaving a huge pile of junk in the bedroom and storage room. Easily 2 pickup trucks worth of crap I wasn't taking. She actually called my father, who was my emergency contact on my application, to tell me it cost her $400 to haul it all away and that I owed her money. He blocked the number. The end. Bonus story. She was showing the apartment when I was still living there. She didn't tell me. So, when she led 2 strangers in the daytime, waking me up again, I stood up. Fully naked, full staffed, and said I wouldn't rent from her if it were the last apartment in town. The couple quickly left. The next story is titled, "Insurance Company Tries to Screw Family, Gets Nailed." Please excuse any violations as this is my first post on Reddit. This is a true story that happened to my family many years ago. I'm old, so bear with me, it's a bit long but the payoff is worth it. The year was 1987-88 and I was a college senior. My brother is 3 years younger than I am and was a sophomore in high school. My parents had just finished remodeling our home, especially the kitchen and bedrooms, and had taken a trip to Florida. My brother decided to have his girlfriend over for dinner and decided to cook her French fries. Now, the new stove was some sort of 80s ceramic cooktop. I cannot remember the brand name, but I do remember you could not tell if the stove was on or off except for an orange light. These kinds of stovetops only heat the pan. There is no gas or electric burner. You literally cannot tell if the stove is on other than putting your hand on it. It's ridiculously stupid design and probably not made anymore, it wasn't induction. So, my idiot brother pours oil in the pan to make the FFs and either forgets to turn the stove off or doesn't see the orange light that it is still on. He goes into the other room to get laid. There is great family debate about this to this day. Did you know that hot oil doesn't not evaporate? It just keeps getting hotter. Well, the oil eventually explodes all over the brand new cabinets and immediately sets the kitchen on fire. Bro has just enough time to grab the dog, girlfriend and call fire department before running out of house. Fire department is amazing and knocks fire down after only burning out the brand new kitchen and dining room. Significant structural and smoke damage, but house is still intact. Oh, this is all happening while my folks are on a plane back from Florida. I won't get into what happened to bro, but suffice to say, he had to hide in the woods for a few days. Now this is where it gets good. My crazy ass father has a giant filing system, all paper, where he has the giant metal racks in the basement where every ducking thing ever purchased is in an accordion file on the metal shelving in some sort of ridiculous filing system that only he can use. Every ducking receipt since 1963. The Vogans would be proud. So once the dust settles, my father calls the insurance company to file a claim. As we all know, insurance companies tend to be large, greedy, bureaucratic shit shows with zero interest in helping people. Insurance company starts asking for receipts. All of them. Father goes into his filing system from hell and begins producing every single receipt the insurance company asks for. Now understand that the house is unlivable at this point. The smoke damage was pretty severe. And they are stalling. Finally, they come back with an offer that is ridiculously low. Now, my father is not a calm person and hates insurance companies and lawyers more than anything. As a very successful businessman, he has had his share of lawsuits and takes particular joy in suing crooked lawyers and insurance companies. So, he goes nuts when they make this lowball offer and immediately files suit against them for violating the homeowner's policy. In the meantime, he has to find suitable living arrangements for family, deal with agents, get contractor estimates, etc. I asked my father why he didn't just take the money and being rebuilding. He says, "These a-holes do this to people all the time and people have to take the money in order to rebuild, but I'm going to fight them." So, he begins painstakingly researching the policy with his broker. Fast forward a few months and I'm home for the summer and to work on rebuilding the house. The entire family is working on the house when there is a knock on the door. My brother answers. The guy says, "Are you X?" My brother says, "Yes. Consider yourself served." The look on my brother's face was priceless and we were hysterical. He didn't understand and my father says, "I am suing you." My father sued my brother for negligence. The same insurance company provided us with the contents policy as well as homeowners insurance. See where this is going? The insurance company would have had to represent my brother under the homeowner's policy. The insurance company called the next week. Settled the case in full. The next year insurance law in my state was permanently changed to prevent that from ever happening again. Edit. I just searched the local newspaper archives, and the fire took place on April 22, '87. This would have made me a junior in college and my brother a senior in high school. Follow up to original post. So, I just spoke to my pop. Here are a few more details to the story. For those saying the story is not true because a policy is a policy and it's all spelled out, the fact that he had every receipt is important because after he produced all of them, the insurance company literally said, "We are not paying you the final $20,000 of the claim, sue us." They knew it would cost him about that much to file suit. So, he wasn't having any of that bullshit. If you think about it, insurance company screwing policyholders like that would save them a ton of money. And most people would simply settle. Back in 1987, you absolutely could sue a family member for negligence under the same insurance company that had multiple policies on your home. The insurance law, rule, policy, whatever loophole he found, was changed forever in my state after that suit. They didn't settle the next week. His lawyer got a call the next day. I did ask if he had a copy of the suit. There was a long pause as if he was mentally finding a triplicate form. "I don't think so," he said. I would have him ask the law firm he used, but he ended up suing them 10 years later on a different matter. Lol. And yes, he won. The last story is titled, "Don't wanna help us pay to get your tree off of our house? Well, you can pay to get it taken away." So, this happened a little over 6 years ago. I live in the Northeast, and Hurricane Sandy hit my area pretty hard. We got lucky in that we didn't have a lot of damage to our house itself. Our fences were destroyed and that was pretty much it. Except, a 50 to 60 feet pine tree from our crotchety neighbor's property fell on top of our house. There was no structural damage luckily, but the tree was huge and definitely got in the way enough to make getting in and out of the house inconvenient. Our homeowner's insurance would pay to move the tree off of our house and into the neighbor's yard, since the tree was theirs, but the neighbors would have to pay out of pocket to actually have the tree disposed of. The tree removal service that our insurance sent us told us it would only cost an extra $200 to have the tree disposed of, as opposed to the usual $600, because they would already be on site. So, my mom, out of the kindness of her heart, called our neighbor to ask if he would be willing to pay us that $200. Since, again, the tree belonged to them, plus an extra $100 or so to help with the insurance deductible, effectively saving them 300 smackaroos. Before even considering how this arrangement would benefit them, the husband berated my mom for begging them for money to deal with a problem that wasn't theirs to deal with. Mama Bear took this in stride and didn't even try to change his mind. After all, she didn't have to pay to get the tree disposed of because either way it was going to be removed from our house. So she just told the tree service to lay the tree in the neighbor's yard for them to deal with. We got an angry phone call the next day asking why we didn't have the tree taken away, and my mom told the neighbor that he had the opportunity to save $300 but he didn't want it, so they ended up having to pay $600 to get another crew to come back out to the house and take the tree out of there. It's also worth noting that the tree destroyed the fence between our two properties which belonged to the neighbors. The original fence was short and really only served to mark the property line, but after this fiasco, they put up a solid 7-foot fence. I guess because being able to see into our yard reminded them of the money they could have saved. Thank you for listening.